Oh, hello, viewers. Here's Jason Lee, that's me, reading the Eden Plot by Paul G. Brett. Acton was standing with his back to the door, staring out of one of the floor-to-ceiling windows. It's hard to read. I thought he looked sinister in front of it, he said. I'm just going to turn the light on. I can't actually see what I'm doing. Right, 1 minute, viewers. It's good to be organised. I thought he looked sinister in front of it, his body dark against the light. Beyond him I could see the outline of the west front of the cathedral, and above it the vast central tower looming ominously beyond the trees. Sit down, will you? I bridled. He might at least turn and look at me, I thought, as I went to the chair in front of the desk. There was a long pause. I've been diocesan secretary here for 5 years now. 5 years, he began. When I came, I was asked to sort things out. I could see what you were heading for, and it was horrific. The bishops were all at 6s and 7s nationally, I mean, and it was appalling. There was no proper supervision here. Committees were making decisions without knowing what they were up to. People doing whatever they wanted regardless of the implications for others. I began to wonder why I was going through all this again. Everyone knew there was a problem and it hardly needed repeating, least of all to me. And all the time the money was failing to come in. I could see us rapidly heading for bankruptcy. I continued to listen half-heartedly, thinking of my own attempts to improve efficiency in the office. It was true, something had to be done, and soon. A moment later, Victoria came in with 2 cups of tea on a plastic tray. Thank you, he said abruptly. He'll need that. Yes, Mr. Acton, came the non-committal reply. Now look, Latimer, he went on, once we've got through the routine of taking the initial sip, you know all about diocesan finance, of course, so I don't need to go through that again. But the truth of the matter is that it's now worse than we thought. Much worse. I felt a stab of fear strike me in the centre of my chest. For some time now I've been working on a scheme to put things right, a truly imaginative one. When it comes off, it will make a spectacular difference to our situation. You won't know anything about this, of course. It's been kept entirely secret. So there had been something going on, I thought. We've got to find an entirely new way of raising money. What have I been working on has, how shall I say, run into a spot of bother. It's a bit of a tricky matter, really. What I need is a second mind to work on it with me. I want you to help. I swallowed. We had not seen eye to eye over much in recent years, though we each had a wary respect for the other. I know I'm not the most popular person in this place, he continued, in a rare moment of honesty, and you and I haven't always got on very well. But you would bring a fresh mind to it. I haven't asked anyone else, of course, and I'd be glad if you'd keep this strictly under your hat for the moment. But if we don't look out, we'll be in Carey Street. I gave him a long, penetrating look. He was a short man with piercing eyes, and his well-cut hair was unexpectedly white for someone not yet quite out of his 40s. He often wore expensive suits and silk ties, and most people thought he was ruthless and kept their distance, fearing he would manipulate them into something they'd regret. But today I caught a glimpse of a humanity behind the carefully presented facade. And there was an unexpected appeal there that struck me as genuine. After a moment I said, "All right, what is it you want me to do?" He began to talk about the project he'd been working on, rather obliquely at first, I thought, but I listened carefully, feeling increasingly uneasy as the story unfolded. I kept my counsel, however, waiting to see what would come next. Is there something about all this on paper I can look at in more detail? I said at last. Unlocking a drawer in his desk, Acton pulled out a blue file. Read this, he said, reverting to his usual abrupt manner. Come and see me when you've been through it and got some ideas together. And remember, not a word to anyone. Back in my room, I put the file into my briefcase, not trusting myself to look at it in the office. This had all the hallmarks of high drama. I study this at home, I thought. It was 6 p.m. before I left the office, deserted now except for the cleaners, glad that the weekend had arrived. As I went along the corridor, I heard some furtive movement above me. The sound seemed to come from the attic. It was probably just rats running along the floorboards. Who knew what went on in these old buildings? Getting home about half an hour later, I left my car in the drive and walked towards the door. A green woodpecker flew past on its way to the wood beyond, and I remembered its hollow, mocking laugh, soon to be heard again. Supper and a glass of wine inside me, I glanced briefly at the children now safely tucked up in bed, then went into my tiny study to look at Acton's file. It was marked Eden Bottom Wood, Personal Journal, Strictly Confidential. Now what's all this about, I thought, but as I leafed through the closely typed pages, my hair began to stand on end. There was dynamite here. Hope you liked my reading them pages from Paul G. Brett's The Eden Plot, which is on Amazon KDP. More chapters coming soon.